Welcome to the Boat Galley Podcast. I'm Carolyn Sherlock, here with tips, reviews, and how-tos for your cruising adventure. This episode of the Boat Galley Podcast is sponsored by Infinity, the most trusted name in woven vinyl flooring in the marine industry. Since 2008, Infinity has offered boat owners premier flooring options proven to withstand even the most demanding environments. Each of their products is equipped with UV-stable fade resistance and antimicrobial technology, giving them both durability and style that can't be matched. Thinking about kicking carpet to the curb? Make the switch to Infinity and see the difference true luxury makes. Use the coupon code PODCAST for 50% off samples. Slow down, slow down. Are you wondering about the possibility of having a microwave on your boat? Hang on just a second and I'll talk to you about the realities. I've pretty much always had a microwave since I left college and began living on my own. But frankly, I was surprised when our first boat, Kaital, had one on board when we bought her. I'd never really thought of having one on a boat. A couple of readers have asked my thoughts on having one and whether it's a good idea. The simple answer? It depends. There's no universal answer. All I can do is give you some things to think about. First off, there isn't one typical boat galley listener. Some are living aboard and preparing a boat to go on extended cruises. Some are full-time cruising already. Some are weekenders, and all sorts of others in between. In deciding whether you want a microwave, there are basically three things to consider: the room it'll take up, how much you'll use it, and whether you'll have the power for it. Let's talk about space first. Space is probably the simplest consideration, and is simply a matter of whether you're willing to give up space for something else, whether equipment or just storage, in order to have the microwave. You'll have to make sure you can get power to the intended location and engineer a tie-down system to make sure the microwave won't go flying in rough conditions. Then there's the usage question. Your microwave usage, sure, may or may not be a good indicator of how much you'll use it on the boat. If you're working, or working on the boat as opposed to cruising, and the boat is at the dock, you may find that your lifestyle is very similar on the boat to ashore, and your usage is about the same. Heating up meals, cooking bacon and baked potatoes, melting butter, boiling water, and so on. The difference comes when you're away from the dock. There are both pluses and minuses. Unless you have a large freezer, you're not likely to have a lot of frozen meals to just heat up in the microwave. Few anchorages have a store where you can just pick up something to heat up. Water actually boils faster in a tea kettle on the stove, and if you're on passage or in a rolly anchorage, it's safer as it's less likely to splash on you than in an open container in the microwave. It's also a lot safer to melt butter on a gimbaled stove than to risk hot oil sloshing in the microwave. In rough conditions, many cruisers love being able to bake potatoes in the microwave. It's easy, and you can often use the microwave when it's too rough for the stove, and potatoes are good even if you're mildly seasick. It's also somewhat safer to cook bacon in the microwave than on the stove, particularly if it's rolly. Just be sure to use enough paper towels to absorb the hot grease so it won't slosh and burn you when you remove the dish from the microwave. If you like popcorn, and it is a wonderful snack, making it in the microwave is much easier than on the stove. And at least the microwave can be used for other things, whereas an air popper can't. Popcorn was by far our biggest use for the microwave. Thawing meat. Well, I know I shouldn't thaw meat on the counter. But in the tropics, a chicken breast will thaw in about 15 minutes, and so I do it that way instead of thawing it in the microwave. And you can cook any meat from frozen or partially frozen. However, if you're in a cooler climate, you might use a microwave for thawing. Many people find that they use their microwave as a bread box away from the dock. It's also a good place to put small electronics during a thunderstorm. I've put a link to telling you more about this in the show notes. Then we need to look at power. Yeah, this is the big one. On shore power, it's no problem as long as the boat is wired with outlets where you need them. At anchor, power generally means a generator or a good-sized inverter and sufficient battery and charging capacity. A typical microwave is 1200 watts. With these, you're going to need at least a 2000 watt generator or a 1500 watt inverter due to the startup loads. With a 700 watt microwave, you may be able to get by with a 1000 watt generator or inverter. However, 700 watt microwave doesn't really cook very fast. If you're going to use generator power, keep in mind that you'll have to run the generator every time you want to use the microwave. Most people find it impractical and end up either not using the microwave at anchor or deciding to run it off the inverter. If you're thinking about this, you might want to read my articles on Inverters 101 or running a microwave on an inverter. They're both listed in the show notes. So how much battery power will it take to run the microwave? Let's use a 1200 watt microwave as the example. The total power used by a 700 one is about the same, as cooking, heating, and thawing times are correspondingly longer. Ignoring any losses in the system, there are always inefficiencies, but battery voltage is usually over true 12 volts, so it works for estimation purposes. A 1200 watt microwave is going to use 100 amps at 12 volts. That's 100 amp hours for a full hour of use. But we just want to know how much it uses per minute, since that's how we use it. Dividing 100 amp hours by 60 to get the amp hours per minute, it gives us 1.67 amp hours per minute of microwave use. So 10 minutes of use is nearly 17 amp hours. From there, you can figure about how much you think you'd use it per day and design your power system accordingly. Or decide that you just don't want it, or that you'll only use it when you have shore power. The space, usage, and power analysis is different for everyone. I know some cruisers who couldn't imagine not having a microwave, and others who gave theirs away after realizing they just didn't use it enough to justify the space. What's your decision? Thanks for listening. If you like the show, please be sure to subscribe in your podcast app. Just search for the Boat Galley Podcast, and reviews are always appreciated. Until next time, then.
Slow down, slow down.